What's up, everybody? This is Logan Hanks with a Living Fully Loaded podcast. I've got a freaking awesome guest for you guys today. She's got a pretty wild story from military to the front lines of COVID and all this. And it's just an awesome story. And that's Miss Nikki Selby. Thank you for joining me, Nikki.
Thank you for having me.
So first, before we get into the story, one thing that I like to do is kind of a general question to kind of warm us up. I kind of have run through some of them, and it's just kind of for fun. So if you're ready, we'll do those.
Okay.
All right. You got to give up one of three: burgers, pizza, or tacos. Which one are you giving up?
Probably burgers.
The burgers?
Yeah, I mean, I love pizza and tacos. I love burgers too, but I mean, if you're making me give up something, on my cheat nights, I always trend towards tacos and pizza. So
Yeah. Well, tacos, we had them last night. I couldn't give up tacos, but I don't know. I love a burger though. That's a hard one. That's a tough
one. Well, I mean, I like all three of them, so that's
yeah. Well, good. Well, burgers is different. Like I say, I don't have a lot of people giving up the burgers, so that one's a little different there.
What do most people give up?
Pizza.
Oh.
Pizza is like everybody loves pizza, but they're like that's like the food when they can't think of anything else. Like, what are we going to eat? We'll just order a pizza. So that's kind of like the fall guy, the way that they kind of view pizza.
I don't know. I love pizza. I really like it. That was my first job, or one of my first jobs, is at a pizza place, a really good one, and I just love it. So
I love all food. So yeah, I mean, all three would impact my life if I couldn't eat them again anymore. So
yeah.
Yeah. All right. They're gonna let's see. You're gonna watch one film for 24 hours in a row. What do you watch?
Probably. Oh, that's a tough one. I would say The Dark Knight Rises, because I watch that every time I see it on, I stop and I watch it. Finish watching it.
That is an awesome movie. That's the one. Yeah, Bane. Bane's a bad dude in that movie.
Yeah.
Tom Hardy. Yeah. I was actually and I was really curious what your answer was, because you're actually the second female that I've had on the podcast. So every dude is like, we're the Braveheart, Gladiators, and Tombstone. So I was really curious to hear. So I'm impressed.
Gladiator.
Well, there you go. Well, that's but Dark Knight Rises is awesome. That's probably, of that trilogy, that's my favorite one.
I love the trilogy. I mean, that is the Batman movies, and the last one is just, I don't know why I love it. It.
Yeah, I wish that they could have. I don't know. I like Christian Bale as Batman. Like I've got really mixed feelings about this Robert Pattinson playing Batman.
I loved Twilight. Yes, I admit that. I loved Twilight, and I don't see him. I mean, Christian Bale kind of ruined it for me. He was Batman, and I just can't see anybody else. But this new one is directed by Christopher Nolan, who did direct the Christian Bale ones. So
he's doing this one too?
Yeah. I saw the preview and I'm like, this looks very familiar, this whole, atmosphere. And yeah, it's Christopher Nolan. So I'm like, okay, I might give it a shot, because it's the same director.
Well, and I watched the trailer, and I liked how it seems very dark. And I really enjoyed that with the Dark Knight series. I like that really dark kind of feel to, Batman. And did you ever watch the movie Logan?
I have watched bits and pieces. I don't think I've seen it all either.
That one, which, I mean, obviously the title of it's got a great title name. That one is probably one of my favorite, like, I guess, superhero movies.
Really?
Because it is so gritty and dark, and I don't know, I like all that. That's why I never cared for Superman, because he's like too bright and like it's like I don't know, I want that like broken darkness that comes with like Batman and all them.
I'm the same way. Yeah, so it has that darker atmosphere, because again, that's it's Christopher Nolan, so it's the same director. Which I'm kind of like, why couldn't you just get Christian Bale? I mean, like, how if you were going to continue this, then
Yeah, and I feel like he would have kept playing Batman. Like I thought I remember reading something about him liking playing Batman.
I don't see why he wouldn't. And I was really I was hoping they would continue this storyline because he shows up in Paris or wherever it was, and I was like, oh, and then Robin,
Yeah,
finds everything. I'm like, oh, this is going to go on, and yeah, just didn't.
yeah,
So
and that's just it. And I never gave the Ben Affleck one a chance. Like I don't think I ever watched any of his.
I didn't either. I couldn't do
I
it.
don't like him. Like he's not a. I don't know. I mean, Christian Bale, he might be a weirdo, but Ben, I just don't like him. He just don't. He doesn't seem like a likable person to me.
I like him in certain things. Like I really loved Good Will Hunting.
Yeah,
Loved that movie. There are a couple of movies with Ben Affleck that I was like, okay, I like this, but he's not like if Christian Bale made a movie, I probably would watch it because I really like
yeah,
that actor. Brad Pitt. It's one of my favorites.
yep.
I'll watch
I,
anything that he's in just because it's him. But yeah, Ben Affleck is not one of those actors for me. So
yeah. Now my
hopefully he's
wife
not
gives
watching
me a
this.
hard. Yeah, he's a pretty big fan of the show, so we're probably going to get
Yeah.
in trouble with him. That's what my wife gives me some crap because I'm a huge Brad Pitt fan. Like I liked Legends of the Fall,
Yes. Thank
all
you.
the classics. Yeah, I
Oh,
mean
that's the movie I should have said, actually. That's
yeah, Legends of
Legends
the
of the
Fall.
Fall. Love
It's
it.
a great freaking movie.
It
And
is.
Tristan, he's a bad
Ugh,
dude in that.
yes. He's
That's what he's and I like. I'm a very I'm happily married. I'm a very secure man in my manhood and my sexuality. Brad Pitt is probably like the universal man crush for men. Like that. I mean, it's freaking Brad Pitt.
it's Brad Pitt.
So
I
now,
mean, him
yeah,
and the
but
cowboy hat and the horror. I mean, you just can't go wrong with that. So
what about when he's done it with the big beard on the ship though? That's the pirate.
yeah,
Still
that's fun.
still like him with the big beard and long hair.
Yep.
No, yeah, he's awesome. That's what my wife gives me crap because she's a Jennifer Aniston fan, and so like the whole
Oh,
I guess he cheated on her or whatever thing, and I'm like yeah,
see, I'm a
I
big
don't know.
Angelina Jolie fan, so I was like, meh.
Yep, there you go. And I
Happens.
like her. I like Angelina better than Jennifer, so maybe that's why I'm not. But I guess he technically cheated on Angelina too. I think.
No, that was all like their kids and drama with it. I
Okay.
think Angelina's a little batshit crazy, so I think it
She
kind of
seems like it. Yeah, she kind of strikes
yeah.
me as that. But I don't know. Yeah, Pitt, he's awesome. But yeah, Legends of the Fall or Dark Knight Rises, either one, those are both awesome movies.
Yes. Yes. I
So
can't
then,
believe Legends of the Fall did not pop into my head with that. So yes.
did you watch Interview with the Vampire?
Oh yeah. I love vampires. I
Oh,
love it. I grew up on those books. My dad gave me those before the movie was made. I read all her series, and yeah, when Brad Pitt was in that movie, it's like, yeah, I'm gonna watch it.
Who is that? Is it Anne Rice? What's the woman?
Yeah,
Do you
right.
remember that? Anne Rice. I've never read them, but I enjoy Interview with the Vampire. But I'm a sucker for like horror like that. Like The Lost Boys is one of my
Oh,
favorites.
I love The Lost Boys. Yes.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's to me the real vampires. Like, all right, so
Yes.
my wife likes Twilight. I've seen Twilight, and it has that like kind of it's so awkward. I don't know, the chick like whatever her name is, they'll like just stare at each other weirdly. So it's kind of got a weird awkwardness to it. I'll watch it with her, but the Lost Boys is vampires to me. That's what I picture.
Yeah, I love The Lost Boys, and I liked Twilight. I think I read the book again. I read the books before the movie came out. So I think what's awkward to you with them staring, I know kind of the backstory with it if you read the books.
Yeah,
So it wasn't very awkward, I guess.
yeah.
But
I
I could
never
see
read
where
the
it would
book.
be.
Yeah, well, yeah, on screen it just seemed kind of weird, but I did watch them, but so I gave them a chance, and I mean, if she wanted to watch it tonight, I would watch it. I'm pretty easy going with movies, but all right. So then piggybacking off of that,
Okay.
the last question: if they made a movie about your life, who would play you?
Oh, I mean, I would love if Angelina would play me.
Yeah. Well,
We sort of, I don't know. I guess I didn't say identify with her, but I relate with her because I think she has that darker edge to her. And
yeah.
that's sort of how I feel about myself. So yeah.
I think that'd be a cool one. And she's,
Yeah.
I know Brad is kind of into guns, so maybe she's kind of a gun person too there. So I mean, she might not be. So maybe
I
y'all
think
can kind
she
of relate.
was. She went, well, like when she made Tomb Raider and all those, I mean, that
Yeah.
was a lot of guns. And I think at some point she was definitely into that. And she likes flying. I like flying. She likes motorcycles. I like motorcycles.
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
go.
All right. Well, that's a cool one, Angelina. Now,
Yeah.
on the motorcycle thing, let's hit on that real quick before we get into your backstory. Because I saw your
Midlife
post.
crisis.
Yep. I saw your post about the motorcycle.
Mhm.
So, but I thought that was really cool. All right, you put this up and you said you had never rode a motorcycle before, but you decided you wanted a motorcycle. So you had somebody take you to get a motorcycle.
Yeah.
Am I right? All right, tell us.
When I was 19. Yeah. So I'm at my first duty station in Florida. I'm an E1. Really don't have, I think we were making like $400 a paycheck. So I really have that kind of money. About me, I just with money, I'm like, you're not going to die with this. Like you might as well, all these people who save all this, and I'm not saying don't save, obviously save if you have a family and whatever, but the rest of it, like people hoard it. And it's like, what are you going to like, you're going to wait till you're 80 and can't do anything? Like I just don't understand that concept. So I'm like, if I have money, I'm going to do all the stuff that I wasn't able to do, or, because I've been poor before. So like now I'm in a pretty comfortable spot. So I'm going to do what I want to do. And yeah, I spend, I admit that spending problem. But yeah, so I'm an E1 in Florida, and I, $400 a paycheck, I think, if that. But I didn't have any other bills really. I had my car bill and my insurance, and then that was it. I lived in the barracks.
Are you living on the base? Okay.
Yes, I was living on the base. And so I just didn't really have any other bills. And back then, gas was 99 cents a gallon. So life wasn't that
why
expensive.
not?
Right. So I just got it into my head. I was like, I really want a motorcycle. I think I saw a couple of guys around base riding. I'm like, that just looks so much fun. And my dad was, my dad's always encouraged me to do so many things, but that was one thing. Motorcycles was like, no, adamantly no. I think he had some friends that were really badly injured. And so he was just like, I do not want my kids riding motorcycles. And so I just never thought about it. I mean, he was so against it. I just never occurred to me. And so I don't know. I watched these guys riding. I'm like, God, that looks so much fun. And so I had friends that rode, and one of my friends, I was like, I really want a motorcycle. And he was like, well, do you even ride? And I'm like, well, no, but you have to start somewhere. Right. So
how hard can it be?
Yeah. And I'm in like Podunk, Pensacola, or outside of Pensacola. I was at Whiting Field, and we didn't really have a lot of bike stores. So I was looking around for something in my price range, and I found something in Fort Walton Beach, which was an hour from where I lived. And it was a little Yamaha. I can't even remember which kind of Yamaha, but it was a 600cc, and it was in my price range. I could afford it. And so I was like, hey, can you drive me down here? And then I need you to teach me how to ride it in the parking lot, and I'll ride it back. Like, this is a great plan. And he's just like, that's probably not a great plan. And I'm like, no, this is will work. And I'm like, how else am I going to do this? So the intention was to go down there which we went during the day, and to ride it back during the day, but it took so long with all the paperwork and everything else. And then he had to teach me how to ride the stupid thing in the parking lot. By the time we were done, it was night. And he was but I had to be at work the next day. It wasn't the weekend. So he was like, or I think it was Sunday, maybe. Cause he was saying like, maybe you should wait till tomorrow.
Yeah. Didn't want you driving at dark.
Yeah. Because that area, it's dark. It's from where I was to where I needed to go was just all dark. And there was some one lane roads, and it wasn't like the safest ride. And so I was like, well, no, I got to be work tomorrow. So I got to write it back today. Like there's no choice. And yeah. And then in my 20 minutes of riding, I'm like, oh, I'm all confident now. And I like, how fast can this go? And I freaking take it up to, I was over 100 at one point. And I just look back on that. And I'm like, I'm such an idiot.
On your first time riding.
Yeah.
So that, I guess, so would that have been more like a crotch rocket style, or is that like a cruiser bike?
Yeah. It was like it didn't have like the full fairings, but it was more of that upright type of bike. So it was,
Well,
not smart at all.
but I envy the confidence. Like you were just, I thought when I read that, the fact that you were like, I want a bike and take me to get one. Oh, and then you got to teach me in the parking lot how to ride it so that I can ride it an hour home. I
Yeah.
thought that was pretty cool. And I'm fascinated with motorcycles, but I'm like, I'm in Tennessee. I love obnoxiously loud. I got that inner redneck part of me, so I love super loud things. And I've always wanted just thunder roaring Harley Davidson.
Yeah, of course.
And I've never bought one because obviously, and it's not myself. Like I'm not worried about myself, but I had a very good friend of mine he got killed on a crotch rocket. And I mean, which we knew it was coming because he drove, he was like always on the edge.
Yeah.
And I think he had totaled like 7 bikes. I mean, he was, just a maniac. But he loved it. He literally lived like, it's weird for me to say because he died on a motorcycle. But like, honestly, I don't know. Like, it sounds odd to say, but if I had to picture him wanting to go some way, that's probably how he wanted to go. Like, that's just the way he was. Like, so, but I don't know. One day, maybe when I'm older, my kids are older, maybe I might finally get me that Harley Davidson. But I thought that story was cool because you were like, I want it, I'm getting it, and I'm gonna learn as soon as I get it how to do it.
Yeah, and that's what's weird about my personality a little bit because I have never, and I always say like I wasn't that confident kid that thought I could do everything, but there are pockets in my life where I look back and I'm like, well, I must have had some moments because some of the stuff is like, I don't even know if I do it today, but I don't know. I just, that's me. It's kind of like skydiving. I got qualified in skydiving. I'm terrified of heights. Terrified.
Yeah.
Like,
but you really, jumped out of an airplane.
I'm terrified, but I'm really terrified. Like to stand, on a balcony in a hotel, like that freaks me out. Or people standing near edges of, like, it just freaks me out. And so, of course, I'm like, go jump out of a plane, see how that works out. So I have a weird personality. So
well, I related to you when I listened to you and Andy. You said that you're notorious for kind of like, I guess, saying yes to scenarios and kind of putting yourself in situations.
Yes.
And that is me. Like I guess I'm somewhat outgoing, but a lot of times it's not necessarily because I'm like trying to be outgoing. It'll be like someone will ask me to do something and I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. Like almost out of obligation. And then later on, when I think about it, I'm like, why did I say I would do this?
Yeah. Yeah. I have a problem with saying no. And then I have a problem with looking into what I'm being asked to do. And I'm just like, sure, problem. That sounds great. So,
but that makes for great stories.
It does. It really does. And like, I have a few friends like that. And it kind of reminds me of this story where when I turned 40, I wanted to climb, or I didn't want to climb. I wanted to go on a hike, just a little hike. And because I am not a hiker at all, like I start going uphill and I don't know what with my body, but it does not like to go uphill because the minute I start, I'm like out of breath, everything hurts.
All the altitude kind of bothers you.
Well, it does, but I try not to like go that high in anything. So I just wanted to, a cute little hike. And I called up my friend Heather, who is just as crazy as I am, I guess, in that aspect where she doesn't look at it like, oh yeah, sure, that sounds fun. And I was like, hey, I found this cute little hike. It's called Mount Baldy. And I don't know what I was reading, but I thought it was only like 6 miles. And so I was like, yeah, it's only like 6 miles, round trip. It looks fun. It's out in LA. And she's like, oh yeah, sure, let's go. So drive up there or super early morning of, I don't know if it was my birthday, but it was like around my birthday. And we go out there. I'm in CrossFit Nano shoes. I don't know if you know those.
I'm
but they're
not sure
they're
Real
just
thin.
workout shoes, little thin, flat workout shoes, and some jeans, and that's about it. Because I'm just thinking I'm doing this little hike.
Yeah.
And luckily she was a little bit smarter. She had actual hiking boots on. But we get out of the car and we see all these people and they're in full on hiking attire and big old huge backpacks and poles and like all this stuff. And she looks at me and she was like, what are they doing? And I was like,
yeah.
I was like, they must be hiking something different. I was like, I don't know. I mean, my first clue should have been the gigantic mountain in front of us, but I just thought maybe like we were just doing a little part of something. I don't know.
Yeah.
So we start going and it's like, this is never ending. Like, what is going on? And we get to this point. I mean, I was pretty done at this point.
Yeah.
And we're pretty high. And I was like, do you think this is it? Do you think we're at the top? She was like, this seems pretty, like about right. But usually like there's some sign that says like, oh, top of whatever, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. You've
like,
reached
I wonder
it.
where the sign is. And this people were coming down and we're like, is this the top? Are we done? And they were like, no. they're like, look that way. And we looked over and it was like a whole nother mountain. And I was just like, you're kidding me, right? And they're like, no, that's the top. And I was like, holy shit. And so we looked at, we're both the same way. I mean, it's like, we got to finish it. We can't not finish this. And so,
yeah, of course.
Yeah. 14 miles later.
Wow.
A 4,000 something elevation gain to 10,000 something. You know, I think it took us 9 hours. It was a rough one. And it was, to not expect that either or train for it. Cause apparently you train for stuff like that. It was bad. And we got, as we're getting towards the top of the peak, the elevation is kicking our ass. I'm taking like 3 steps and then like, can't freaking breathe. Like,
I can't imagine. Yeah. I have never hiked 14 miles up a mountain. Was it worth it when you got to the top?
I was pretty pissed at that point. I was like, I'm going to be done with this. I want to be done. There's actually 2 ways to go up. So there's the gradual side, which is where we went up. And then there's this steeper side. And I was like, let's just go down the steep side because I'm done with this shit. And
get this over with.
Everybody there was like, if you've never done this before, do not do that. If the trails are bad back there, you're going to lose. Like, I was like, I don't give a shit. Like, we're going down this side. And so he's like, I want the shortest possible. I'll roll down this damn thing if I have to. And it was bad. We lost the trail a few times. And luckily there were people that were on the right trail and we could see them. And then we had to like backtrack and go back up. But the next week or 2 is when there was a huge storm up there and like a ton of people died.
Oh, wow.
Like, wow.
Wow. That's, good. Yeah. Well, at least y'all timed it a little better on when you went.
Yeah. Thank God. Cause I would have been the stupid person like, no, let's just go. Like, who cares?
They'd have been digging people out and these people would have had on like all this hiking gear. And then they've been like, one person wearing blue jeans and some little nano shoes.
Look at this idiot. I wonder why she's dead. Yeah.
How'd they get lost up here? Yeah.
Yeah. So, those are the things that I do. So if I ever ask you to do something, you might want to look into it.
You're like, what does this really entail here? Yeah. Yeah. Do I need little shoes or are we actually going to hike 14 miles here? Like, yeah.
Well, I wouldn't be the person to ask because I obviously would not have the answers to that, but you would probably want to do the research on whatever it is. So
yeah. Well, like I said, that again, it makes for a cool story. Now you can say you hiked a 14-mile Mount Baldy. Do you live in California? Is that where you live?
Yeah, I'm in Southern California. I retired out of here. So I just hung around right now. Kids are in school. So I'm just trying to figure out, but man, this state is, it's expensive. It doesn't fare well for people who like guns at all. I mean, I was looking for a Glock because, everything's hard to come by these days. And I had someone find me one and it was a Generation 5. And I'm like, oh yeah, I can have a Glock 17 here. And they're like, not Generation 5. And I'm just like, why?
What's wrong?
I don't understand.
What's the difference? I mean, why does it matter? What's Gen 5 got that you can't have in California?
I can't remember the difference, but it's like you can't have, it's only Gen 3 and below for a 17 or, I mean, the rules are just insane here. It's just, you can't keep up with it. And I mean, at one point I had a rifle that was California legal, and then they changed the law on that and it had to be something else. And, overnight
Yeah.
they just people criminals. And it's just, if you're not, I guess, in the books, or the legislation, what's going on, then you're not going to know. And
Yeah.
it's crazy. And I don't know if that's on purpose or what the deal is, but it's hard to keep up with what's
I'm
legal,
sure.
what's
Well,
illegal.
that's one good thing. I mean, like I said, in Tennessee, we're like, I mean, guns are everywhere.
Yeah.
And I've seen a thing. I think it was California. I can't remember if it was California or New York from flying, and it had like this. It was like an AR, but on the pistol grip, it had like a big flap on the back of it. Is that
Yep.
like
That's
it's
California.
solid?
Yeah.
Why? Like, why does
I,
it matter if you can wrap your thumb around the grip?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, and then to change out the magazine, you have to take it apart to get the magazine. I mean, it's
So it don't have just the button
great.
on the
Oh,
like release.
no, no. Oh, no.
Wow. And you
No.
can only have can you have any more than 10 rounds, or is it 10 rounds and that's it?
Rounds. That's it.
Wow,
Yeah.
man. And that
And
sucks because that's
I was thinking about too, all these shootings, right? You have these mass shootings. And I was like, I would be effing pissed if I'm in a store and I've got my kids and, this happens and I had the ability to protect myself if I had to, if it came down to it. And
yeah,
they've taken that right from me and they've let this guy now, I mean, we're just sitting ducks,
yep.
and it's terrible. I don't understand. I don't understand the logic behind that. So
Well,
yeah.
and I mean, the thing, like, I'm with you 100%. And what kills me, the people that do these things, they don't give a crap if
Nope.
there's a law saying that an AR is illegal or something.
Yeah.
And I mean, the thing about it, the only way they ever would have stopped gun violence. Like, I've talked to some people, there's one way they would have stopped it, and that's if they had a time machine and they went back in time and never created a gun. Because there is right now, I think there's something like, and I may be way off. I don't have my phone on me, but like 3 million ARs in the United States or something.
Yeah.
You're not going to ban 3 million AR-15s. And that's just ARs. I mean, like, I see it as a slope. Like, I had a guy on the podcast that he was from South Africa. And he talked about they had like no guns because then, and it started out, they kind of piece by piece by piece more or less outlawed all the guns. And because he said he's not a big proponent of like he called them assault rifles, but he was like, I'm not a big proponent of those. But he said I don't want them to ban them because I understand that it would only continue to erode and like go down. Next thing it'd be like, well, lever action rifles, and then well,
Yeah.
really nobody needs a rifle. Like, and it would just kind of keep going down the line. So, which I mean, an assault rifle, that's a term that we kind of laugh at a little bit because it's like anything could be an assault weapon. I mean, like this ink pen could be an assault weapon if I assaulted somebody with the ink pen. So I mean,
Right.
like that's kind of a funny term to me, but I don't know. All it would do is hurt, like you say, the legal people that
Yeah,
are trying to defend themselves.
exactly. And you're never going to get rid of all the guns. You're just not going to. And criminals will figure it out and they'll figure out how to get them. And, you're leaving us without defense. And I'm not okay with that. That's terrible. So yeah. And it's politician. I hate politicians. I hate them all
Yeah,
because they don't really care at the end of the day. They don't give a shit about, oh, the safety of the people. You don't care about that. You have an agenda. Somebody's pushing your agenda and they're putting money in your pocket. And that's all you give a shit about. That's why
yep.
I can't stand all of them.
Well,
So,
and doesn't that suck that the
yeah.
people that represent us are pretty much all of them are bought out?
Oh yeah. They're all, but, and that's what I don't know why people don't understand this. And the problem with Trump, in my opinion, is that the problem that they had with Trump is that he was mostly self-funded. and you can't control that. And what we're seeing, in my opinion, is a 3-year-old tantrum by the left because they can't control this person. Because I've always said, okay, if Democrats were honest, who should be their candidate? I wouldn't say Hillary, and I wouldn't say Joe.
No.
If they really were truly living by what they believe in, I would say it would be Bernie. But Bernie is also self-funded and not controllable. So they have an issue with him. Somehow Hillary won the primaries. Somehow Joe won everything, which is mine. But that's my whole point, is that it has nothing to do with the candidate or who it is or your beliefs or whatever. It's all about the people behind the scenes running the show, which is not the people you see. Maybe Trump was, because, again, he had his own money. He was able to do what seemed to be, what he wanted or what his ideas were. And this is a fit that they're throwing because of that. So,
gosh. And that's what tripped me out when Biden, air quotes for people just listening, when he won the election there. And I'll make some people mad by saying that, but I don't care.
A lot of people stop.
Well, I do say, I feel like I've probably weeded out most of those people that listen to this show. I don't think that there's some like blue-haired Catwoman liberal in New York listening to the episode. Like, I don't think I got to worry about that. If she is, hey, then I appreciate the diversity of the audience. But I like Trump. Well, let's see. Hold on, where was it going? Oh yeah, when Biden won, the liberals were like, "Y'all get over it," like y'all just need to get over it. And I'm like, get over it. Like we've been dealing with y'all's tantrum. Like I said, it's been a temper tantrum for 4 years. They spent such a temper tantrum. They tried to impeach him twice. Spent millions and millions of taxpayer dollars, like constantly investigating this guy and all this stuff. Like, what I can't even picture a bigger temper tantrum than what they've thrown. People were like screaming in the streets. I still love the like infamous video of all the people having meltdowns when Trump won.
Oh yeah.
But like you said, he couldn't be bought. How do you bribe a billionaire? What do you offer him? And I was talking to somebody today and we were talking about, okay, Trump said mean things. He would say mean things sometimes. Right. But the economy was booming. Then COVID hit, and they try to peg this COVID thing on him, which is bull crap. Like, you can't peg a virus, like a viral thing coming out. And he said we'd have a vaccine, and then we had a vaccine like so many months later or something, because all the Democrats were like, he will never see a vaccine, like saying this stuff. So he talks a lot of crap, but a lot of times he backs up what he said. So I don't know.
You might not agree with everything he says, but I would take that because up front what's on his mind. Where he is, where you stand, and I would rather take that over someone who's lying to my face and doing things behind my back. So and the way this culture is now, and everyone's offended by everything. You just can't talk to me badly. It's just it's crazy. Like how quickly it seemed to have happened too is even crazier to me and scary. But it's at the end of the day, if people were honest, and I've always said too, and I think I said it on Andy's podcast, what they've divided us is on the social issues. And I really don't think a lot of people give a shit about that. I feel like everyone pretty much agrees, live your life. I don't really care what it is, what you do with your life. I don't care what you marry. I don't, whatever. I'm all about smaller government, stay out of my life, let me live, and that goes across the board with how you want to live your life. But they've managed, and if you talk to people, if you actually have a conversation, if people will have a conversation with you about it, everyone agrees about that. And like, for me, what my concerns are is economics. It's the national security and foreign policy. And most people would agree with that if they, most of these guys don't understand, especially younger generation. But when you explain it to them, it's like, well, yeah, that's my concern. And it's like, okay, so we're on the same page. is what you're saying.
But it's
We're all
not
on the same page.
cool. It's not cool or hip to
Yeah,
be to to lean like more conservative on things. Like that's like the old way, like your grandparents' way. Like that. I argued with a young guy that's probably 20, 21. I had a kind of a debate back and forth with him on Instagram. Don't even know why I even like wasted my
I
time and that. And then they want to lower the voting age to 16, which like blows my
know.
mind.
No.
But we know why they want to do that because historically, young kids, as a young person, you think like, oh, world peace, liberalism, like this kind of thing. That's everybody gets that like taken care of. It sounds
Right.
great. Like it sounds great in theory, but
Right.
somebody has
Well,
to pay for it.
yeah, and they don't understand. And that's again, they don't understand economics. But the thing about, I don't think that would have worked lowering the age to 16 back before technology because kids were heavily influenced by their parents, and if the parents were conservative, most likely the kids were raised with that type of
Yeah,
mindset.
conservative.
They
Yeah,
can do it now because of all the technology and the social media, and they are getting to them through that, like the
yep.
TikTok and all that stuff. And I see it in my own kids, and I'm just like, I did not raise you that way. Like, where is this coming from? My oldest daughter, I love her to death, but she moved out and she was living with her boyfriend and another roommate. And she had made the comment about, she's probably gonna kill me for telling the story, but she had made the comment. She was so mad at this roommate, or she and her boyfriend were mad at this roommate because, their rent was $500 a piece.
Yeah.
He ended up getting a better job or something where he was making more. And so I called her somewhere around this point, and she was like, I'm just really frustrated because he's making more, so he should pay more. And I was like, what? I was like, let's back up here a little bit. I said, was that in the agreement that you guys had? And she was like, well, no. And I was like, so you're saying because he's making more, he should just automatically pay more? And she's like, well, that's fair. I said, get that word out of your mouth.
Yeah. Gosh.
It's not
And
fair. I was
and
like, no.
penalize them for success. That's
Right.
penalizing
Right.
people for success.
I'm like, you're not getting this. And I said, just wait until you get a job where you're making more money. And what did she do? She got a job where she's making decent money. I said, so you're paying more, right? And she was just like, Mom. And I'm like, but what? It was okay for
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
But, and it's again, like, why do you have to live that? Why can't you just listen to people who get it? It's just,
Well,
but
uh, that's what's frustrating. It's like when
mhm,
you try to tell them stuff like economics wise, it's like I'm not just saying it like to hear myself. Like we've lived it, we've been there. Like I pay
yes,
taxes. I'm a tax paying citizen. Like I've experienced that amount of money I don't get to like take home because it goes to taxes. And
yes,
so that's what this guy. I mean, he was that way. Like I said, he's probably paid taxes for a year of his life. I mean, like he's just a young guy, doesn't know any better. And I gave him really strong arguments for why Biden was a bad choice. And then he like gave me the cop out and was like, well, that's what makes this country great. We can have differing opinions and still like be in here. And I'm like, what a cheap out. Like I'm like, that is the cheapest way out.
yeah.
And he's a good guy. I like him. Like if he happens to listen, I'm not like shitting on you here, but I mean, like that's it just I'm like, man, I'm not just saying this stuff for the hell of it. Like you
Yeah.
said, social issues, whatever. But economics is pretty. That's not opinionated. Like that's facts. I mean, it's facts on the opinion or on
Right.
economy.
But it again, this generation or this culture is like trying to make things that are very black and white, not black and white. And it's just like you can't change certain things. Like that's just how it is. Just because you don't like, you can't put the blinders on and say, oh, they don't see it because I don't like it. Like it's just not how that works. So I just
Well,
yeah.
uh, I mean, the last episode I had. Do you know Bill Rapier?
I've heard his name. Wasn't he on I think he was on
He was
Andy's
on
or
Andy's. Yeah, he was
yeah,
on
or
Andy's.
Mike, because I was on Mike Rutland's as well.
I think.
So
Uh, might have
kind of
been on
all
Mike too.
the same.
Yeah, he may
All
have
right.
been on that one.
Yeah.
But him and Terry Ewan served together. And actually, I heard Andy say he was in on the Jessica Lynch. Bill was in on it as well.
Mm-hmm.
He was a
Yep.
SEAL with them.
Yep.
Well, I had him on the last episode. It'll actually come up this next week. But
oh, nice.
I mean, we hit on some. We actually talked about the transgender push kind of going on, and like you said, I mean, I'm not a politically correct person. I when I went to school, we still learned basic biology, and there's the XY chromosome, and like you got male and female, and back then, and it wasn't horribly long ago, but like back then, if someone was like born a boy and they said they were a girl, it's like, no, I mean, that's not the way biology works.
Right.
And your feelings don't just dictate everything. And so me and Bill talked about that because he was kind of venting his frustrations with the military because he said it's almost becoming, in a way, a social like experiment.
It is. Like, they just read some article where USASOC, I think it was USASOC, hired a diversity person. Like, his job description is a diversity something. And I'm like,
how does that help the fighting force? Like, how does
it doesn't. It doesn't. That's why it's like that has no place in the military. And people are going to learn this the hard way when we do have a large scale war, and the problem about this generation is they don't know what that is or what that's like. It's been OIF, it's been OEF, and we've had complete control over those areas.
Yeah.
We controlled airspace, we controlled all of that. And, they don't understand what it would be like to go to war with a near peer adversary who has, can match our firepower, who has a Navy, who has Air Force and air power and all that stuff, and the ballistics and all that. I mean, they don't get it. And I'm like, these countries don't give a shit about your feelings. And I'm like, they're actually playing on this.
Because, they love this.
Yes. I mean, this internal destruction, was it Lincoln that said that, right? We weren't going to be destroyed by the outside. We're going to do it to ourselves. So, I mean, I'm sure they had honestly some hand in this, and they, again, the social media is really dangerous when it comes to the kids, and they're easily brainwashed into believing all this stuff. I mean, I fully believe in, like, you're a conspiracy theorist, but no, I think these are campaigns to break down. If you break us down internally, we are an easy target, and we will be an easy target. And if you think Russia and China and any of them care that you're going to hurt our feelings when you blow up our country and our and everybody around us, that's the point, people. So I don't know. It sucks. And again, we're going to learn the hard way. And none of that has a place in a fighting force. I mean, the only thing that should be important is whether or not you can do what you're put there to do. And it has nothing to do with anything else. And they don't like it because statistically, it goes against everything they keep trying to push, I get the question of the whole female in combat and all that stuff. Sometimes like, well, again, being honest, and I was an only female in my community at one point. So I feel like I can speak on this, but, do I think there are women who can pass some of these selection courses? Yeah, of course. I mean, yes. And I think women are mentally, can be stronger. Like, we can just set a lot of pain aside and just keep going. However, scientifically, we are not built to do those things that we like in a long-term capacity, rucking 100. I mean, people don't really understand what 100 pounds on your back feels like, or having to walk long distances, or, having to survive. Like, it's just, and then again, not that women can't do it. It's just, it breaks us down. And that there have been studies that have proven that, our bodies are built for different things, and I always say, it's okay. I don't know why I'm not trying to be equal with a guy. I don't want to look like a guy. I don't want to be like a guy. I don't understand this. And you can prove it every day. You can take a guy and say, hey, go do a pull-up. And most men without training or doing anything can get up and do a pull-up because they're built that way. A woman, you can go to a CrossFit gym who I've seen like the strongest of the strongest women and these beast women, you know, who I admire and look up to, and they have struggled to do a pull-up. It took a lot of time just to do one, you know, and these are very strong women. And, you know, it takes a lot of effort because we're not built that way. However, I could probably out sit up any male I know. I have very strong ab muscles, as do most women, because we have to push humans out. Like we're built for that. So, you know, I'm just like, why are you trying?
Like you said, and it's not a dig at women. Like there is a lot of things my wife is much better at than I am. But like I've told somebody, like if I had to tear down a wall with a sledgehammer, I'm going to probably get the job done quicker than my wife can. Like I can swing a 16-pound sledgehammer where she's going to need a much lighter sledgehammer, take more. So like, I mean, it's just natural. And that's what Bill and I actually talked on that just a little bit. Cause I asked him his thoughts, cause we were when he was talking about he was saying they're trying to like overly diversify the military. Mm-hmm. And they're like going to require it in a sense, like just like with, you know, they want so many like minorities in workplaces and stuff, and not getting on any of that kick. But he was saying they're going to do that with the military. And I said, what do you think about that? And he said, man, one issue where he said, is when they start trying to lower the standards. Yeah. Like he said, you need to meet the exact same standard. And then Bill told me, he said, man, there was a woman that deployed with them. There may have been a couple. They went with them, and he said that she could deadlift double body weight. And he said, which he was like, I couldn't deadlift double body weight at the time. But he said, my body weight with my full kit on was more than her double body weight deadlift. And he said, if I got shot, you know, like it's kind of a thing, like if he was down, she could not get him out. Yes. And then as men, I mean, I'm a civilian. I didn't serve, but like as a man, you inherently feel a call to protect a woman. Like it's just there. I mean, and so that's what he said. He said men acted differently at times when a woman was there. Yeah. And that's, you know, and you'll hear some men say like, oh, that's not true. And I don't know, maybe, you know, you got some sociopaths out there that can turn it off. That's fine. But you're talking majority again, you're not talking about individuals. And that's the problem with a lot of this is you're trying to take the human out of humans. And I've said this over and over again, you can't change the way humans react. And that is a problem. And it is natural for a man to, you know, automatically you're going to want to help that woman out. And, you know, they are going to put their lives in danger even more so than for, you know, their best friend next to him or whatever. And so, it's funny when you say deadlifts, because another point I want to make with the strength part is all you have to do is go watch the CrossFit games. And I want to say it was like 2018 or 17. Dave Castro lined up a deadlift ladder, and it was just, you know, you pull once, then you go on to the next one, and it just gradually went up in weight. And I think the women started in like the high 100s or something like that. And it ended for women at I want to say 485 or something like this. My numbers might be off a little bit, but it was definitely in the force, but there's only one woman that made it to the last one. That was Brooke Wells. Yeah. And she was the only one who made it to that, but she struggled. I mean, she got it up, but it was hard for her. Right. Yeah. The men come out. They started at 500. Jeez, thanks. So, do you know what I mean? Like men's lowest started 15 pounds heavier than the women's max, where only one woman made it to that. And you're talking about the top of the, you know, strength ladder. The upper echelon here. Yeah. Right. So and every man, of course, pulled the 500 and then went on to, you know, whatever. But it's just like, you have the strongest people in the world doing this. And one woman made it to the last one, and every male lifted 15 pounds heavier than that and went on to lift more. So like,
you can't, that's right there in front of your, that is
Yeah.
reality. That's in your face.
Well,
Like you can't argue that. So,
it is, and that's, I think even to World War II. All right, that was like brutal, and that was what I would consider probably some of the hardest generation that our country had, was the World War II veteran era,
yeah.
and they didn't give a damn about people's feelings. Like they were there to do the work. I mean, like I think of my grandfather. He was an MP in World War II.
Yeah.
And he passed away in even longer ago than that. But I wish that he was around so that I could pick his brain, because I can assure you, back then, if somebody started bitching about their feelings and how they feel, like that's the guy they like got hit in the mouth. Like they were like about to learn about their feelings if they
Yeah.
started. So I
But
mean,
that's,
they were there. Sorry, go
that's,
ahead.
no, that's a generation that saw that upfront and personal, and they knew, you either toughened up or you're going to die.
Yeah,
And that's why I'm saying, and it's really unfortunate because this generation is not mentally, we are not mentally preparing them for what can happen. And we're so egotistical as a country to think
yeah.
that this is never going to happen, and it's going to. It is absolutely going to. I mean, you have, and nobody reads the news and nobody pays attention to other countries and what they're doing. And all you have to do is look around and see what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're not, China's not building a navy just to take cruises. I mean,
Did you
it's
see?
just,
You see where they're like doing that masculinization thing for their men?
yeah,
You see,
yeah.
China's like, actually, we're over here going the
Mm.
complete opposite route. China is now like trying to make their men more manly. Like they're
Yeah.
going the opposite direction.
And do you think, like, again, social media doesn't have a play in that? You're crazy. I mean, this is where kids are
Yeah.
getting the news, and this is where they're getting influenced. And, there's this huge pansexual push amongst young kids. And I'm like, where is this? Like, what is this? It's just like, it's
What
coming
what is
from,
that? I don't even. I'm out of the loop. What is a
it's,
pansexual?
it's, it's, how old are your kids?
Mine are three.
Oh, okay. They wouldn't know. I was like,
I've
if you
got
had like a
twins.
13-year-old, I was like, I guarantee they know what I'm talking about. Which is
My
kind
3-year-olds
of
better
scary.
not know what you're talking
Yeah.
about.
No, I don't think your 3-year-old would, but um, no, it's just this whole like, oh, we just love anything. Doesn't
Oh
matter what you
God.
are. We love everything. You can like, and it's just, you know, it, it's coming from social media. And like, my child, who is not even in that, thought, or should be in that thought process of thinking about what she wants
Yeah.
to, what sex she wants like to like or whatever, um is already influenced, it has been influenced by that for a couple
Mm.
of years. And so and I talked to another mother who was just like in tears because her daughter wanted to, my daughter did too, was shave your head and you pansexual. And it's like, that's the
Oh
trend
God.
right now.
Yeah.
And she was so like, oh my God. And I was like, I said, this is a trend. It's a
Yeah.
trend that, has been planted some by somewhere. This is all going on. This isn't, your child is suddenly this or that or whatever. It's something that has been put in their face over and over and over again, and it's become normal for them. So that is, again, a campaign. Like, people, like, if you don't
Yep.
think there are people out there who are doing the psychological warfare and like thinking of how to, basically influence an entire generation in our country, you're crazy. Like, this has been going on for a while. So,
And the easiest way is to start when they're kids. I mean,
yeah.
if you
Oh
can
yeah.
get them when they're kids, then by
Yeah.
the time they're adults, then it's like, it's nothing. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that's I
It's,
don't know. I'm old school, like when it comes to morals kind of thing, and I mean, you see it easy with morals. I mean, they have eroded like hugely in the country, and
yeah.
I mean, you even see it in cartoons and stuff now. Like, I mean, like you said, they start with kids, so that by the time they're grown up, it's like, man, that's normal. Like
Yeah.
there ain't nothing weird about this. Like where with me,
Right.
like we grew up in what I would consider what is normal. And so now I see all this weird stuff. And I'm like, what the heck is this weird crap?
Yeah.
You know,
Which is now normal to them. That's the
yeah,
whole game, right? Normalizing things for these people. Like that's the whole game of all of it. If you can
yeah,
normalize something, then it's, it becomes part of your culture or whatever. So yeah. And it's easy to do when you have social media. And and again, there's this, it's hard nowadays, and people are like, oh, kids shouldn't have phones and whatever. It's like, you can't almost do anything without it, and it's like,
yeah,
you take away a phone or whatever, you try to put restrictions on there, they find back doors into all kinds of, I mean, there's so much more technology, have more of that knowledge and the skill
yeah.
than we do. And they know that they can get around whatever. It's like, sure, yeah, put a restriction
So
on
what do
there.
you do? What do we do as parents?
It's like I say with everything else, is you can't just, block things out or whatever. It's education. You have to just educate them and hope what you're saying to them is more powerful than what they're seeing, on social media or whatever. And that's why I try to have these, when I hear my kids talk about certain things, I try to have the conversation with them, and not in a demeaning way, but just more like, why do you think this way? And like, just to have them
Make
think
them think.
more, critical thinking, instead of just being regurgitating what you're seeing. And you'll find when you talk to them, they're just regurgitating whatever it is that they're watching or seeing. But when you ask them the questions and like, well, why do you feel that way? And why this, why that? And they're just like, oh, so it's really just, education and making them more aware of other things that aren't being talked about. So, it's really all you can do, because you can sit there and try to block their phones and restrict and whatever, and they will find ways around it. Like, you're just never going to get around it, unless you want to put them in a cage in the, garage or something and lock them up forever. I mean, you're never going to get away or get around it with the way technology is these days. So yeah.
Yeah, it makes me kind of sad, or it makes me, I guess, a lot sad, because like for me growing up, I was like, I stayed outside and playing in the woods, and I mean, that was just part of it. I mean, which we didn't have cell phones when I was a little kid, and even when I got into high school, that's back when like text messages cost like 10 cents or something to send a text message. So it was like you weren't really texting all the time, and we didn't even have a camera phone. So that came, like, I guess right towards the end of high school, people started getting camera phones, and then we'd get in trouble with camera phones. But I'm like, I don't know. I'm scared for where we're headed, but then I hear people claiming that there's kind of this resurgence of like this conservatism kind of coming. I don't know. I actually heard Dan Crenshaw say that. He was I think on Free Range American. I was listening to him on that episode on their podcast. He said that there's kind of a group of conservatism coming back. Now, I don't know. I mean, he's in that party. Now, before we go on kind of your story, what do you think of Dan? What do you think? Do you think Dan is good or what? I mean, I'm putting you on the spot about him, but
no, I've always, I liked what he said. I really liked how he used to, or probably still does. I think I unfollowed a lot of them just because I was getting tired of hearing all shit. But he used to break down things really well. He would do like little videos about bills and like, legislation, and he would really break it down to a point of understanding, which is what we need. I mean, that's the problem, is that people aren't educated enough about what politics are trying to do in Washington by hiding, other things within bills and whatever else. You think you're voting for one thing, and meanwhile you're voting for 10 other things that you didn't ask for. And so I thought he did a great job explaining that. I know he took kind of a hit with like the
red flag.
Yeah, that was like something happened. He took a hit there, which I wasn't really understanding why. I mean, I do, but like you said earlier, once you start with one, it just keeps going. And that's the
Yep.
problem. And that's why people who back 2A is so adamant about not having any of the laws, because that, again, human nature, right? That's their way in, is to do one thing and
Yep.
then just slowly chip away at it. And so, you just can't, like, it's just, they're not going to let it go, and they're going to keep going until they get to the point where
Yeah.
you have nothing, and people don't realize that. And and it's funny because some people still think like politicians are like, the government really is looking out for us. I'm just like, okay. And I'm like, and my thing is
Boy.
like, if you talk to people who worked for the government their entire life, like me, I've been in the military, or I was for almost 24 years, and I'm not saying the same thing. There's probably a reason for that. I
Yeah.
probably have experiences
Yeah.
where I see that they're not exactly out for number, for you. So, yeah, that's just, you know, I get why everybody's mad at him for that. He should kind of known better, I think. But
I know it shocked me when he backed
yeah,
the red flag stuff. Like, and I had one of my good friends is a big fan of Crenshaw, and I mean, and I liked him prior. Like, I'm not saying I don't dislike him now, but it kind of raised some questions to me because I liked the fact that he had, was a SEAL. I'm like, yeah, he's got good, obviously some hard military experience. I like that. And I like a lot of his values. But when he did the red flag law, I'm like, man, like, what's up with this guy? Like, I'm like, come on, I mean, he's a supporter of us being able to defend ourselves. And I'm
yeah,
like, but he's got to know the slope of things with that, like we said. And so it almost made me wonder, like, has he kind of like gotten away from his roots, getting into politics? Has he become more of a politician? Or like, I don't know.
yeah. And it's like, I don't know what the thought process was behind that, but what it did was plant a seed, unfortunately, in people's heads, that did someone buy you off,
Yeah.
because why would you say something that you would think with his background you would be totally against, and then sort of like
Yeah.
change your tune on that. And that kind of smells,
Fishy.
yeah. So that's the unfortunate thing. And like, so I don't know. And but that's the thing. If you are trying to be a genuine politician, um, the minute you plant a seed like that, and people like they start questioning you, it's not good. So
No,
I
no. I
don't know.
mean, that
It's weird.
it is politics. They just suck. I don't know. And it's too much money. No
Yeah.
normal person could ever run for president. I mean, like it was like billions of dollars or something spent on like the last election.
Well, so that's, that was my whole point, because everyone keeps talking about like, how were these the only two candidates that we have to offer? Obviously, there are way better candidates out there that I
Yeah.
think would have done way better than any of these guys. But the problem, and again, I have this conversation all the time, and it blows my mind that people don't think about these things. But I'm like, how much does it cost? One, it should be criminal to cost millions of dollars to run for a public office.
Yep.
I've always said there should be a campaign cap, because how fair is it? If you wanted to run for president, you're like, you know what? I want to go and I want to run for president. Okay, well, it's going to cost you how 10 million, whatever the millions it is now. Obviously,
Yeah.
you don't have that, right? Here I am, like, hey, I've got $10 million. I'll give it to you. You can go run. Do people not see, like, if I'm not doing this out of the kindness of my heart, I'm not
Yeah.
giving you
Yeah.
$10 million to just do what you want to do and say what you want to
Yeah.
say. No, the minute you're elected, I'm like, all right, I want this done. I want this. And obviously the interest to put more money into my pocket.
Yep.
That is how that
They
works.
own them. They own them.
They own them. All of these people are owned. And it goes back to why they hate Trump so much, right? Because that is the one person that's, didn't take that. I mean, took what, $1 for his paycheck for a presidency. I mean, they hated that. They couldn't control him. And I don't know why people don't understand that who you're seeing, the majority of them, probably minus Trump and I don't know, maybe a couple others, but like the majority of them all of them, Republican or Democrat, are being controlled by other people
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
paid for their campaigns. And you buy into that the minute you start campaigning for presidency. And it's again, it's criminal. Now you're eliminating anybody who, one, will not buy into that, right?
Yeah.
So if you go to people and say, hey, I need money, and automatically it's like these deals being made, like, okay, well, I'll do if you blah blah blah. And if somebody's like, oh, well, no, I don't want to do that, well, then obviously they're not going to give you the money. So now you've just
Yep.
eliminated any candidate that wants to stay true to what they believe. We've built this ridiculous system, and that's why the whole drain this one, I was like, drain the freaking, like, drain all of them,
gosh.
all of
All
them,
of them. Yeah.
start
Get rid of all
over.
of them.
Like, this is bad.
Yep.
They've gotten so far from where, what we should be as, a nation, and, what the government should be. And I truly believe our forefathers, again, if you read history, this is exactly what they've been trying to get away from. And that's exactly why they had that war. And that's exactly why I think George Washington was actually offered to be king or whatever. And he was like, no, the whole point of this was to not do that. So, now we've just kind of come back to that. So it's a lack of education. And schools are not teaching what they should be with our history. They're picking.
Well, like I said, that goes hand in hand with the powers above want it. They're kind of, it's an indoctrination kind of thing. I mean, like I say, I'll put my tinfoil hat on. I mean, I believe it is. I mean, there's something going on.
It's not a tinfoil. It's reality. And that's, and people don't like it. That's what they, how do they discredit you? They call you a conspiracy theorist. Oh, you're crazy.
Yeah.
That's how they discredit any of that. And it's just like, no, why don't you just listen to what I'm saying? And, you don't have to believe it, but just it's all there. Just do the research on what I'm talking about. I don't, it's mind blowing how people are just being easily fed this information and not doing anything on their own to, see the other side, or, this doesn't sound right, or, and again, these are politicians across the board. Like, it's just, I took a war college class, and my professor, the first day, he said, it's like, who are the 20 richest people in the world, or something like that. And we were all like, Bill Gates and all that, like that you know for sure. But he's like, all right, well, who's the rest of them? We're all just sitting there like, oh no, actually. And he was like, so we're all Googling, like, who are the 20 richest people? And he's like, those are the people who are controlling most of the things that are going on. And they stay behind the curtain on purpose. They don't want to be out there on purpose. So it's true. I mean, I don't know why, again, you have this naivety, with these people where, oh no, they're all here for our good, and, to make life better.
Well, and that's why I think the left really attaches to the younger because of that. I mean,
they're easy.
Well, now, all right, last person I'm going to ask you about before we get into it. That I was
really, we're into it.
I know. Before we get started, an hour in. But this has been good.
If you give me alcohol, we'll be here all damn night.
I told you 3 hours with Brandon, so I mean, you got to be ready. You got coffee in that cup, I hope.
No, it's water. I got spin at 6.
Dang. No. So I'll tell you who surprised me. Because I was pumped up when he came on board with Trump, and then it didn't end well, which was freaking Mad Dog. What do you think there? I'm asking you a little bit about that one. What's your thoughts on that scenario?
I kind of feel the same way you did. I mean, I think a lot of us saw him come on. We're like, yeah, this is gonna be great. I don't know. I honestly don't know what happened there. And like, kind of poking around a little more, it seems like, Mattis didn't have like as much support as I thought he had across the board. He'd done some things that had pissed people off in his military career that I even scratched my head with. So, I think, again, we all saw that the face of it, and we all loved him, and, all his quotes and all that stuff. And not to say that, those weren't true to heart, but I don't know. I don't know what happened. I don't know where they're, and that's what I also tell people is that you don't, whatever you're seeing or reading in the news or the public, that is not even a tenth of what's going on behind the door.
Yeah.
We do not have any idea. So I don't know what it was they disagreed on exactly or why. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm surprised that it didn't go better. I can say that
Yeah.
much. I don't really feel like I have a place to talk about what it is because I don't know, what exactly happened. So, um, yeah, I did really think, that team was going to be, synergistic.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. I was like,
But
this is like a great duo here
yeah,
with him and Trump. And I do think, I mean, I like Trump, and I actually liked his, like you said, he said what he thought. Like I never was wonder what this guy's thinking, because he would just
exactly.
say it. And so I like that. And I do think that I feel like Trump kind of has to have a lot of yes men like around him.
Yeah,
So I could see where if a guy, because if people would kind of challenge him on some things, I feel like it
yeah,
didn't end well a lot of times.
right,
And so,
right.
I don't know, trying to just look at it from a different lens. I don't know if maybe, like, say, him and Maddox didn't see eye to eye on something, and they got into it because Trump
Yeah,
wanted him to follow line. I mean, I don't know. That's just
yeah.
I could kind of see that with Trump.
Yeah, I mean, I agree 100%. And um, I think Trump is very black and white with a lot of things. And,
Yeah.
Matt is a thinker. And I think, that didn't go as well as we thought it was going to go.
Yeah.
I think we just automatically thought they would be on the same page. And,
Yeah.
it obviously didn't work out that way. So,
No,
um,
no.
without knowing the background or the context of exactly what it was they
Yeah,
were not doing on, it's just hard to you know I guess take a side on that side or on that. And
for
you know
sure. For
hopefully
sure.
one day
So
maybe they'll write a book and
let us know what really
let
went
us
down.
in, yeah, what the heck happened there. So
Yeah. So where'd this start here before I want to get some of your story here. We've had great conversation, but
yeah.
people still want to know who you are. So a little more about
You're
you.
like,
So
who's this girl just talking about crap?
we're on politics hard. I mean, we gotta save some room for COVID too
I
here.
know, like we just hit a lot of heavy topics. And
Yeah. But
yes,
so where are you originally from?
I'm original. Well, I guess what I call home is Vegas because my dad retired there, but we kind of had hit different states while he was in the military. My dad was Air Force.
Okay.
And when I was I think he retired when I was 8 or 9. So up to that point, we had moved around a little bit. So I guess not originally from anywhere, but Vegas is where I spent the majority of my childhood. So
Okay.
that's what I claim.
Yeah. Yeah.
As much
And
as I
so
don't care for Vegas, but yeah.
now Vegas, all right, when I picture Vegas, all I picture is the strip. So like what is
I thought you were gonna say
Vegas?
strippers.
Yeah. Yeah. What is that? The red light district or whatever they call that, or something out there.
I'd like, no, I think isn't that
Is that
Amsterdam?
wait, is that Amsterdam? I'm way
Yeah.
off here. What? I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, sorry, you were not from Amsterdam. But what is Vegas like? Because yeah, it's like when people hear that I'm from Munford, and it's like 20 miles out of Memphis, and they
Mhm.
automatically think of Bill Street, and it's like I've been to Bill Street. I mean, I've been a few times, but I never go to Bill Street, and like where I live ain't shit like Bill Street. It's like rural country town. So like, what is Vegas?
Vegas is, and when I went to boot camp, people were like, people live in Vegas. I'm like, yeah, it's like a city like everything else. It's just our downtown part is casinos and
Yeah.
all that stuff. So that's kind of how I try to explain it, is that
Okay.
it's just like every other city. We have suburbs and neighborhoods, and there's actually a lot more. Your immediate thought was casinos and the
Yep.
night. and all that, when actually we have a lot of we have Lake Mead, we have Red Rocks. I mean, a lot of outdoor stuff that goes on there.
Yeah.
It's, a lot of things to do other than just going to the
Just
casinos,
gamble.
and gambling and, shows and everything, pool parties and whatever the heck they've gone to now. So, yeah, so it's just it's a city that,
Yeah.
and I lived on the outside of all that. And, I think I grew up pretty, in a normal, regular home. So, nothing too exciting. I will say, like, there is a lot easier access in Vegas to trouble.
Oh yeah.
As far as like drugs and all that stuff. I mean, it is everywhere. And people always like, oh, it's in every city. I'm like, yeah, but it's just a little bit more in Vegas.
Easily attained.
Yeah, there's just a lot more of that stuff everywhere. So yeah, that's maybe the bigger differences, and it's hot. It is freaking hot in that city
I
in the
heard it
summer.
it'd get like way up in the hundreds, won't it?
Oh yeah, 115. We moved there in August, and I remember we had a garage where the lock was on the outside, where you had to put an actual lock through the little holes to lock your garage. And I remember it was August. I woke up and went to go open the garage, and I put my hand on that lock. I burned my hand. And I was just like,
wow,
what hell did we move into? It's
yeah.
it's not normal.
Well,
Yeah.
I talked to somebody about that because see, we'll get up into like the 90s here, but our humidity is like 100%. So
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you walk outside and you sweat
Yeah.
immediately.
It is definitely different heat. It's drier. It's not as
But
bad.
that's still hot as crap. 115.
It's still hot. I mean, hot is hot to me. I hate heat. Like, that is not my thing. But I will say, what people don't realize is Vegas, from about October, November to around this time, is actually really cool. It's like in the 70s, it actually gets really cold. Yeah, when you're in the winter, it's real cold. I mean, it gets down to, my dad just sent me pictures of snow in the mountains right behind his house. They're like, it gets cold. And like, people don't realize, I think the best time to go to Vegas is in the fall and winter, because it's just, if you like cooler weather. I mean, there are just some weirdos that like the extreme.
Yeah,
no,
I mean, I live in the South and I hate the heat. I mean, like,
I hate it. I am miserable. Like, I am just angry and just mad and pissed off. Like, I do not like to be hot, and I don't like to be extremely cold either. But if I had to choose, I'd rather be cold than hot any day.
Me too. You can put a jacket on.
Yeah, it's like you can put layers on. Like, with the heat, there's only so much you can do. So
yeah, you could. That's what I tell my wife. I'm like, you can only take off so much, and then I'm still hot. I mean, like,
exactly. Like, it's just terrible. No, my perfect weather is like the 60s, 50s and 60s is perfect for me. And 70s are okay, but you're starting to get warmer for me. I like 50s and 60s. Like, I am happy in that type of weather. So
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So your dad was military. Is that what drove you to go military?
No. He was actually like, I don't want any of my kids to be military. I think he threatened our lives even if we joined. My brother and I have a brother, and we both ended up in the military. No, I grew up playing tennis. So tennis was my sport. My dad spent a lot of, like, now being a parent and seeing how much people, our parents spend on us, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. We spent a lot of money on me playing tennis, and I took private lessons, and I played tournaments, and I did all this stuff. And I really thought that was the direction I was going into for college or something. And in high school, I just, an incident happened, which like put me into a tailspin of just, a downward tailspin. And I ended up failing and I was a good student. I've always been a good student, took advanced classes. I was, A's, B's, always. And that just put me into this spiral where my last semester of my sophomore year, I ended up with a 0.8 GPA.
Oh man, thanks.
And tennis for women was the fall sport. So it depended on our GPA from the previous semester, which was that semester for me. And even my sports director was like, we got to figure this out. So I went to summer school, tried to get it. It was so far down though. I couldn't get it back up. So
Yeah.
I got kicked off the tennis team for my junior year, which is
Oh,
right
man.
at that moment where you're really like figuring, like what college is and all that stuff. And I was out. So I finally recovered, but got to my senior year and my dad was like, figure it out.
Yeah.
Staying
Now,
here.
do you think you were caliber? Would you have been caliber to have played college tennis?
Oh yeah, I think I definitely could have gotten into a college for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, ever since I started walking, I was playing and, played junior tournaments and all that stuff. I mean, yeah, I think for sure some kind of a college at least,
Yeah.
Yeah. Without a doubt.
Yeah.
But, it just didn't work out that way. So then my senior year, dad's like, yeah, figure it out. You're out when you're 18. So my brother kind of screwed up in high school a little bit too. And he ended up in the Navy. And so I just remember going like, oh, I guess I'll go talk to a recruiter. So I went and talked to one and joined the Navy. So that's how I ended up with that. And my whole intent was to join just for the GI Bill and get the college money, do one enlistment, and then get out and figure out what I wanted to do. And that just kept going on and on and on. So here I am.
Yeah, for 24 years, is that what you said?
23 and a half years. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Well, but that's good though. We need people to stay in like that. That's what one of my dad's friends, he's just retired. He was a colonel in the Marines, and that's what he was like. We need the guys and women and all that'll stay in because a lot of people, do they're like 4 or 6 or 8 or whatever, and they're done, and that's fine. But he was like, we need the people that stay in. I mean, we need them.
Yeah, you do. But the problem is that, like everything else, it becomes political at a certain stage. And so luckily I was enlisted for 10 years. So when I commissioned as an officer at 10, when I got to that point, at 20 years, I was still a mid-level officer, and only towards the end of my career was I really having to play that, or where I would have had to play the politics, which I am not a politics person. And so I always said like, this isn't going to go well for me because I don't keep my mouth shut. If I think you're stupid, I'm going to tell you. I don't care what rank you are. I'm going to let you know that that's not a good idea or whatever. So at one point, just to go to meetings with, there were very high ranking officers, my CO would make an escort go with me because I would just run my mouth. So like
keep you in line there.
Yeah. Because I would I just, if it didn't make sense to me, I was going to question it. Like, that's just me.
Yeah.
And that's the way people should be. And for me, it was important that my guys were trained appropriately. And that's kind of how I ended my career was setting up a training program for medevacs for the Navy and the Marine Corps, because we don't have something like that. And I was put in a position in Afghanistan, as were many other nurses and corpsmen, to just do these medevacs without the proper training. And I'm like, this is not okay with me. So I came back from that and was like, this is going to change, or I'm going to make a lot of noise until it does change, or until something happens or whatever, which I did make a lot of noise. And that's actually how my Instagram originated with getting so large, because my intent with it was to actually create the program that was not official. And I knew people were going to get pissed when they found out about it. And I knew that people followed me that were of higher ranking. So I purposefully, if you ever are bored and go back and read some of my posts with like the military pictures, you'll see the jabs that I was making at the Navy and the Marine Corps.
I'll have to do that. I have to go back and creep on you there and see that.
They're very like, I was like, this is, basically, and, I'm starting this training program because you guys aren't doing what you need to be doing for our guys. And it did get the attention, and I
got it worked.
Oh yeah, it worked for sure. So, and it, and I'm not saying that my thing is what highlighted this problem, but it was, I know it had a lot to do with it, along with other people talking about, the issue with that. So And that was my sole purpose, was like, that was me as an officer, was like, my guys being trained and prepared correctly was what was important to me. And if anything else strayed from that, you were going to hear from me. So
Yeah.
um, I did not. The unfortunate thing about getting promoted in the military is, they want you to hit all these boxes and like wickets and whatever else. And I was like, I don't give a shit about any of that. And I was
Yeah.
fortunate enough, because I did have the time enlisted, that I knew I was going to retire regardless if I made the rank or not. So it did kind of allow me to open my mouth more, even though I think I would have been like that anyway and probably just kicked out. But yeah, I didn't care about, hitting whatever it was I was supposed to do. And unfortunately, there's just a lot of what we call career officers who that's all they care about.
Just
And
checking the
that's
box.
like the politicians, right? So you
Yeah.
don't actually care about your people. You care about you and getting ahead. And I'm not for that. I'm sorry. That's
No.
not okay
Yeah.
with me. So I hate those people. I'll say that out loud, if you're listening, if you're one of them,
Yeah.
change your mindset, because that is not what you're there for. So, yeah. So I knew, I was up for 05 at that point, and I knew I was probably never going to make that or see that, because I just refused to do what they wanted me to do. And so,
Yeah.
so I
Well,
held out
that's,
as long as I could to get what I needed for the guys, what I thought was important.
yeah. Well, and that's what Bill actually kind of touched on that a little bit too. He said that some of the guys that have gotten really high in the ranks now are almost, I guess, they're so wrapped up, like say, in the politics side of things. That's why, like when we were talking about the social experiments that they're trying to do in the military now, he said these guys will endorse it
Yep.
because it's just they're towing the line of like this is the route they're supposed to go. So
Yes,
yeah, that
they
sucks.
will. They will sell their soul for this. And I don't, again, I don't agree as a human that's what you were going to do. And this is what I tell people: I always have a plan B,
Yeah,
because if what you are standing for is, ends up getting you kicked out, always have a backup plan. And that was, becoming a nurse was my backup plan. It was.
yeah,
I didn't grow up going, I want to be a nurse and save people, because honestly, I don't really like a lot of people. I'll be honest with you. I do like saving people. I do love all that, like high speed stuff, but it just wasn't my passion, like being a
yeah,
nurse. I knew, and I'd started out in the medical field doing like search and rescue stuff. That was kind of the natural progression for me in, the military is to become a nurse. And I knew I was locked in to have a job and to have, if tomorrow the military wanted to kick me out, I had instead of being a corpsman, which I loved being a corpsman, I loved what I did. But if I had, been put out on my ass the next day, I would have nothing, which is
yeah,
the unfortunate thing that we're doing with a lot of our enlisted guys, not setting them up for life after and having a skill set. I mean, they have the skill set, they have way beyond the skill set, but they don't have the titles or the certifications to translate over to the civilian sector. Whereas for nursing and that stuff, you have to have a license. You can't just practice.
yeah,
You can't be a doctor or a nurse without a license. So you get the license, which means, if the military decided I was out on my ass the next day, I could walk into a hospital, and it wasn't just any license that I got. It was nursing, which I knew we had shortages, and I knew I could go anywhere in the country, even the world probably, and have a job. So,
yeah,
and a good paying job. So that was my backup plan. And, with that and that knowledge, knowing that I would survive if, what I was doing, people didn't agree with and were going to kick me out, I would be okay. And so I tell people all the time, like, don't put all your eggs in this basket, because it limits you. Yeah, you have to have a livelihood. You have a family and home and whatever,
yeah,
you got to keep that going. I get it. But, when it starts muddying up your morals and what you believe in, then that's a problem. And
yeah,
that is what, unfortunately, a lot of people find themselves in that position where they keep going and going and going in the military, and that's all they have. And they lose sight of, anything else, or thinking about, oh God, if I don't get promoted, what am I going to do as a backup? and then they fall in line with what they're supposed, what people are
Yeah.
telling them to say and do, so they can keep going, at that point. And so,
Yeah.
but I freaking hate officers like that, or even senior enlisted. It drives me crazy when I would go to ranking boards and they would, oh, well, this guy isn't good enough because he didn't, like we're talking about an enlisted person, for instance. Well, he doesn't have any college. And I'm like, they're not supposed to, like, that's not a thing. That's not it.
Yeah.
That's the college thing was always, like officers, you got to have a degree to become an officer. If somebody chose to be enlisted, which a lot of people choose the track to stay enlisted and go, high in the senior, because you need those people, right? They have the experience, they have the background, the knowledge. They're actually the ones who train the junior officers. Why are you forcing them to go to college and lose sight of what they're there for? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If they want to go to
defeats
college,
the whole
that's
purpose.
great, but that should not be, a wicket in getting promoted, is having college. That drives me crazy because I don't care if they, and what do they do? The whole background is that, oh, so they're more educated in whatever, I don't know, military, whatever. And it's like, that's not, but they're going just to get it because now that's what you've made them do to get ahead. So what are people doing? They're taking stupid classes that they don't give a shit about, that nobody gives a shit about, that doesn't help them in their career, right? It doesn't give them any back, because if they go like some basket weaving classes, that's not helping them in what they're doing, right? Why would you even want that? I mean, this guy, if they're at the senior enlisted point, they have so much knowledge and experience and background. That's what you should be, that's what you need to foster and use for your military. They're training.
Why does the degree matter?
It shouldn't. I don't know. Like, I don't, to make them more like well-rounded. No, that's what we need from them, is everything they have been through and all the experiences they've done, and all their lessons learned, and they're training our junior enlisted and our junior officers. Like, that's what we need them for, to that experience. And that's, I feel like that's a big breakdown of our military too, is like, that senior enlisted guy he's the expert in the field, and has the background and the experience to back it up. And we need that knowledge to be spread to, your junior officers, to the enlisted, the junior enlisted guys that they're training, to make us stronger, because they're the ones with the lessons learned, to me, are the most important. And I'm seeing less and less of that being spread around, because I feel like we're taking their focus away from that to concentrate on going to school at night after work. And I'm like, why would you force that on people? And then if they don't want to do that, which I don't blame them one bit, they're out because they can't get promoted because they're not doing what they need to go to school. No, you just lost the guy who has a wealth of knowledge and background because you're making him do something he doesn't want to do and shouldn't have to do. It has no bearing on his job at all. So I got kicked out of going to ranking boards because I was constantly like, that's bullshit. So, and it's just become this whole thing where, to me, if you're going to get promoted, you should be the expert in your field first.
Yeah.
You should be the go-to guy. You should be the one that everyone's asking for the knowledge of your field. And then, if you want to do extra, whatever, I don't care. But that's not where I'm placing importance in. It's so backwards. They don't care if you're an expert. They just care about this extra shit that you're doing that doesn't have any bearing on anything. And that's the problem, right? So now I have all these people who are not experts in what I have them here for. They're experts in selling cookies and freaking whatever, I'm sorry, that's a big nursing thing. It's like bake sales and whatever. Anyway, but it's like they're experts in putting this shit together, but they can't be a nurse. But now when we have a war and I need you to be a nurse, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
How does that doesn't benefit? I mean,
it doesn't. And that's the problem. And that's, this is, again, this is where we are in life. And like, this is what we've created, the system. And that's why I hate politics. Like I see it with my own eyes. That's how it is everywhere, anywhere you go, this is what it is. So
Yeah. And that sucks too, because like I said, especially with the enlisted guys, like if he doesn't want to go to college, like I said, doesn't feel like they don't feel that's the route. And but they obviously are passionate about the military and they've been in there putting their time in, but they're going to get basically the boot because they won't do this.
right.
Um, if their long game, like you said, was to be in the military,
Yeah.
their world just gets dumped on its head. And like with you, a nurse, I mean, that's like a great route to go because, like you said, the world. I mean, my wife's a nurse, like I was telling you before. I mean, there is always a shortage of nurses.
Yes.
But the problem, especially with these guys that are like infantry, and from what I've talked to, it's like, okay, you can go be a security guard
Yeah.
or like become a cop. Like it's like basically two routes or something for you to go. And it's so like the security guard thing, not to crap on security guards, but it's kind of like you go from this elite group to
Yeah.
like, all right, now you're you're a security guard. You can't even, maybe you can carry a pistol. Like, like it's so, yeah, that sucks. That sucks that a college degree, especially when you have the years of experience, like that should overrule the necessity of a
Yeah.
degree.
Yeah. I mean, they should be, a lot of like speaking from the medical side of the world, because that's where I have the most knowledge. We should be making sure these guys have the certification to just go right out into the outside and start working because they have the
Yeah.
skill set. They don't need any extra education where that comes from. I mean, the Navy independent duty corpsmen, they're providers essentially. I mean, they are, the only people on some of these ships that are the medical providers. They're prescribing medications, they're doing medical exams, they're doing female exams, they're doing everything pretty much a
Yeah.
PA and MP would be doing. And we don't give them any certificate. They walk out and they can't do anything. And it's
Yeah, that sucks.
crazy. So if that's what you want to concentrate on, instead of saying you have to get a college degree and then people just are like getting stupid things that have nothing to do with their job just to say they got something, make it to where it's something that is actually applicable to their profession and making them better in their profession, and
Yeah.
something that they can actually live off of once they get out of the military. I mean, that's different than just saying you have to have college. That could be
Yeah.
anything. Psych degree. I mean, what's that going to do for anything?
Yeah.
Or like I said, basket weaving. I mean, oh, great. You got college classes. It's like, oh yeah, that all that did was make them waste money,
Yeah.
do something, take their focus away from their work or their family afterwards, because now they're going to school. So now, they've worked all these hours during the day and now I got to go to school because that's how I'm getting promoted. I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
now you're taking away, the person from being with their family when they have that free time. And it's gross. It's just mind numbing to me. So
Yeah. I'm sure. I'm sure it is. So
and
then,
I've always been vocal about that, even when I was in it. It's just like people are like,
well,
oh God, here she comes. She's gonna
I'm
start
glad
talking.
that you are though. That maybe there's enough people to be vocal that I don't know. Maybe one day it'll shift the tide and it'll actually straighten things out. I don't know. I mean, if
Well,
people never say anything, then it'll never change.
right. And that's, the people, any nurses or corpsmen that I mentored that looked to me for a mentorship, that's what I would say. And I mean, you can ask any of them. This is how I was. This is what I always told them is like, this is what's important. This isn't what's important. And yeah, it might bite you in the ass. You might
Yeah.
not make the next rank or whatever, but you have to be okay with that. That's what I've always said. You have to be okay with that. You have to know that if you stick to your guns, and you have to know if it's something that's important, like training people. To me, that is number one, training your guys, making sure they're prepared, making sure they have the equipment to be prepared. That is number one. And it should be across the board when you're in a certain position. If that is going to rock the boat, then you got to be okay with that. And then you have to have a
Yeah.
backup plan, and you have to know that, yeah, it might hurt you in the end. But also, like you're saying, if enough people start thinking that way, and if people start talking about it more, maybe that's what will be important. But
Yep.
really the only time you see that is when there's a war, unfortunately, and when this, this stuff happens, and they can't be politicians anymore because reality is just giving them a big dose in
Slap
their
in the
face,
face there. Yeah.
Yeah. So, um, and I know that's unpopular opinion, but I'm like, we need a war. We have gotten to a point where we need a little bit of reality that we can't control,
Yeah.
And, control the outcome or whatever. And like, that's because I just feel like everyone's living in this fairy world, like this isn't real. Like, this is not real life. We're only able to do this right now because there isn't anything outside that's, putting pressure or whatever. So we're kind of able to be in this weird bubble that we've created of whatever this is.
Well, and we're so, like with the war in Iraq and Afghanistan, all that, we're so removed from it. Like, one, it's been going on for so long. I mean, there's people that are born and are like nearly like teenagers and stuff now, that war has been going on the entire time they've been alive. Like I heard something crazy that there was like fathers and their children were like coming into the same war that they had been like a part of. And so, that war, like you said, it has had like, I don't know, when I try to think of the general population, especially like the young and stuff, I mean, from a preparation standpoint, our military would blow the doors off of those guys like in a firefight. Like, I mean, when I talk to Terry, Bill, and all these other guys that have had direct firefights with them, they're like, oh, I mean, we slaughter them in like a straight fight. So, I mean, it's easy to like you said early on, we think of our military, we kind of are egotistical about our country. It's like, oh, we're America. Like, nothing can happen to us. And so I get it with you saying we need a war, because like, let China or somebody that hates us and has been probably gearing up for something with us for a long time. And it's so many of them. Like, I mean, let something like that happen where we're in a direct conflict, like, like it's happening in our face. I think it would be a major wake up call for a lot of people. Like, I don't know. So
people don't. I actually had this conversation with my 13-year-old, and I was like, do you think these countries care about because I don't know, it was a feelings talk or something. I was like, do you think they care? And she's like, no. And I was like, exactly. And I was like, they don't, like, but they don't. She says no, but it's like, you really don't know. You don't know how bad it's going to get. And, this generation crying, this isn't fair, is just going to make it easier for them. You know what I mean? So, I don't think these kids understand why we're so scared for their generation, because we know better. And, again, they're trapped in their own little world and their own little bubble. And, and it's easy to do when you grow up here. And I admittedly, until my first stint overseas, like Haiti was the first thing that really opened my eyes. And it was the first time I was really out of the bubble of the United States. And it blew my mind that people live that way in this day and age. And it just, which is so naive of me to say, but it really, kids in no clothes and living in sticks with a piece of sheet over, and that's their home. And it's just like,
we have it very good over here.
Yeah. Like, no wonder why they all hate us. But it just blew my mind with how it is in other places. I really feel like kids should have to do some sort of overseas, after high school, like a, Peace Corps or something that really opens their eyes to some of these different countries and nations. But I mean, it's easy to get stuck in this bubble and not really understand how the world is. They think that everybody lives the way that we do. And it's
well, and that's what I've heard, like, them say their poor people wish they were our poor people. Like, that's like how poor some of those places are. And it's like, so I don't know. But now.
I heard it like real quick. There was I don't remember where I read it, but there was some guy who came from might have been Haiti or like one of those countries. And he was living pretty poorly in New York, I think it was. But to him, he wasn't living poorly because he was just like, and people were like, oh, I'm so sorry or whatever. And he's like, are you kidding me? Like, I have opportunity here. I can actually
Yeah.
like, this is amazing. This is great. And it's just like, and that's what people don't understand. Like, they don't know the other side of things and the, a different perspective like that. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's scary.
It is. It is. I mean, and I hope that ultimately, I hope that it doesn't have to take a slap of reality to get us there. But I mean, the realist of me thinks that it will. I mean, because things are just so easy and soft.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've seen that even with this would be a good transition here in the COVID that we're dealing with.
Man.
That glorious COVID.
I
You
have
couldn't.
so many
You,
opinions on that. It's,
you,
it's unfortunate. You have to almost, like think about what you say, because there's that whole cancel culture thing and they go after your jobs and it's nuts.
if you don't want to talk about COVID, I won't put you on the spot on COVID.
No, we can talk about it. I said it in Andy's, it's like, I'm not gonna lie about things, right?
It is unfortunate. I mean, because you're not. I talked to Terry about this. There was a video. Do you follow PragerU?
Yes.
Did
I
you
don't
see
see
the
all of their posts though. I think they're kind of shadow banned a little bit.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm sure they get shadow banned for sure.
Yeah.
Did you see they did a post? It's been several weeks ago now. It was a kid on a college campus, and that Will Witt or whatever his name is, I think he went out there, and he's the young guy that'll do like the interviews for him. And
Oh,
he
okay.
went out there and he was like just sharing some conservative ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And the young guy on the college campus called the police on him, and the police came, and he was like, "Y'all need to arrest this man." And they were like, "What did he do?" And he said, "He's threatening me." And they were like, "How is he threatening you?" And he was like, "With what he's saying, his ideas threaten me." And the cops were like, "That's not a reason. We're not going to arrest this guy for that." And that's like that. So that's where nowadays, like with COVID, if you
Mm-hmm.
just have a different opinion,
Mm-hmm.
it's like
Yeah.
you're threatening me, like your opinion threatens me. And that is a bizarre place in a country where like I went and I don't wear a mask. I mean, which the mask mandate ended in our area. I'm in like Tennessee. I actually don't even know of a person that has COVID right now. Like I can't even think of a person that had it. Um, but one of my good friends, he was not wearing a mask when all this kind of started, and he was in a grocery store, and some guy had on a mask, and he called him an asshole because he didn't have a mask on. He was mask shaming him.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I was gonna say you have been in it probably more hardcore than anybody because you were on the front lines there. Like you went to New York. Was it New York when it really blew up?
Yeah.
So kind of share a little bit of your story with the corona.
Yeah. So, when it first started, I probably like everybody else was like, okay, it's got the same symptoms as maybe a bad flu. Like it just didn't,
Yeah.
I never had this like alert, like, oh, this is bad. I just never was that concerned, I guess. And then the toilet paper craze happened, which it really like boggled my mind. I'm like, did I not get a memo on something? Like, are they stopping making toilet paper? Like, what's going on with this? And I laughed at it and then really got concerned when I was like starting to run out of it and I couldn't find it. I was like, okay,
yeah.
I'm really gonna have to be washing my ass and
yeah.
Like,
You're gonna have
crazy.
to go to the
Yeah. So I was like, wow, okay. And then masks started happening, and I'm like, I had people reach out and were like, hey, I'm like, it's like these people jumped on this fast. And I, again, feel like I missed the memo somewhere. Cause I'm like, how do you like, what? So like early on, people who had nothing to do with medical started sewing masks, and they were reaching out to me like, hey, like if you want to like, you got friends who need masks. I'm like, why would I put a t-shirt over my face? Like this was my exact thought process. And like, why would I put this is a virus. Like, do you understand how small that is? Like,
Yeah.
this is not going to do anything for me. I
Yeah.
didn't think. Um, with my medical background and knowledge, I was like, I've never once have thought about putting a t-shirt over my head when I've had to deal with, TB or, the flu or anything else that had,
Yeah.
that could be spread. So, I was like, what do you like? No. And I even thought like, cause one lady reached out to me. I'm like, there's no way I could hand this out to my friends. They would laugh at me, like, what do you mean put a t-shirt over my face or whatever cloth they were making it out of? Like if I hand this out to medical people, like they're gonna laugh. So I thought,
And you'd been early on the train then if you would have done that.
yeah, I would have been. Yeah. I mean, not kidding how fast these people started sewing this stuff up, which is like, again, I'm like, did you get some memo that I wasn't aware of that you knew this was going to be a thing? Cause
Yeah.
it really like, I laughed at it. Like, there's no way I would wear a cloth thing over my face. Like, that's not going to do anything. So yeah. And then it just kept escalating. And, I went to New York in April and they were standing up. It was actually a really good thing that they did. It was a field hospital and um, Colonel, now retired, Missy Givens she was the director. She went up there. She in conjunction with New York Presbyterian set up this field hospital. And her deal is, hey, let me bring in the soft medics who or medics who have background in like soft and like, military and all that stuff.
Yeah.
To come work here. Like, could that be a thing? Because they made it to this where it was, oh, hey, let's kind of use this to show that these guys have the capability to work in the civilian sector without having a certification.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because
So
of, for whatever reason, with the, emergency mandate, whatever, it was allowed. And so we brought these guys in and we actually had them working as nurses. And so what my role was is we built this field hospital at Columbia University. We used their indoor soccer bubble thing and turned it into a field hospital. And we took all COVID positive patients and we would have like a row of 36 beds. And then there were a couple of us that were actual licensed nurses. And we would take a couple teams of these soft medics or special operation medics. Yeah. And basically train them in, they're great in trauma and all that stuff. That's, what their training is. They're top of the cream of the crop when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah.
But this is a little different because this was medicine. Or medical patients, with a lot of comorbidities. Because what they're used to is in shape guys who get shot or blown up or whatever. And like this was
not your
people,
warrior physique.
Yeah, this is people that are, obese and overweight and have a multitude of problems, diabetes, heart disease, and all this stuff that they weren't quite used to. And so my job was to train them on that side of the house and make sure they, understood like, like the medications because it's not normal medications that we're used to given, like insulin and all that stuff. And different types of antibiotic, IV antibiotics and things like that. So it was a little stressful for me at first because I had two teams and we had all these patients. And so I was kind of running around and making sure that, one, that they understood like, hey, don't give insulin until you like confirm it with me. And that's always like a 2RN thing anyway. So, cause you mess up even a little bit with the very small dosing and you can really screw someone up. So just things like that. But man, these guys I worked myself out of a job probably within a couple of days. They were just amazing. Awesome. And I was so amazed. And I almost was a little worried. There's special operations medics. I thought they would because they had to do some nursing stuff is not very sexy, like gases and, cleaning patients up and doing vital signs and all that stuff. And I kind of thought they would be like, I'm not doing that shit, or whatever. Yeah. And man, they jumped into it and they were all about it. And it was just great. And my teams, I had two teams that I freaking love them. They were just amazing people. And it was just a joy. We were in it. Like we all did, I think before we even got a day off, I think we did 10 days straight, and we were working nights. Man. We did 10 nights straight with COVID positive patients, which meant, and we couldn't have anything inside there. We couldn't have water. We couldn't have food, nothing. We had to go out completely undressed, take all the PPE off, just to get a water or go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And then put it all back on, which is a pain in the ass, right? Because we had everything
Were y'all
on.
in like the big bio suit type things? What were y'all wearing?
Yeah. So we had the bunny suits, we had the goggles, we had a regular mask or an N95 with a regular mask over it, with a hair thing, with shoe coverings. I mean, it was a pain in the ass to get on and off. And so, and there's a whole process of how to take it all off because you didn't want to contaminate one thing or the other. So it's, it's like, like instructions, you sit there and like read them as you're putting on all your stuff. And so, it got to the point, it's like, yeah, I'm really thirsty, but I'm not going to go.
It's not worth the trouble.
Yeah. So yeah, but so it was hard is what I'm saying. It was very hard. Man, I looked forward to going to work every night because I just loved the team that I had. They were just great people, and they jumped into it head first and they learned so quickly. And it really was. And I think they were going to write a paper or something about that to hopefully help with that. Because it's true. I mean, these guys and we had people like some of these guys have been out of it for a while and they just picked it right back
Jumped right back in. Yeah.
Jumped right back in and
do you think
asked questions and learned. It was just great. It was so awesome.
Yeah. So do you think that they were like fired up for it because it kind of gave them a chance to show what they could do? Do you think that was kind of part of it?
Absolutely. Yep. I mean, they all were there, like, and they all know, like, and we've been talking about that over the years that, these guys have so much to offer and so many, like, it's almost a disservice to the civilian sector, especially when we're hurting on medical, providers and nurses and everything else, that we have this whole group of people that could easily integrate into hospitals and we're just not utilizing them.
Yeah.
Because we're making it such a pain in the ass for them to get a certification, or making them go back through EMT school or paramedic school, which is not easy to do at all. And it costs money. So it's just a disservice to everybody. And this kind of proved the point that, these guys can walk in any hospital and function even as a nurse, like, so it was, I mean, they were so, it was just amazing. Just how they really took it and they took it to heart and they, just it again, like at the end of it, I was just sort of just doing rounds and making sure that no one needed me. I was like, and of course they would come to me and like I was their resource and they would ask me questions for whatever. But I had so much trust in my team too, that I didn't worry that they were going to do something without asking me first, because they always did, which is great. Cause you kind of worry about that too, right? That
they get too confident kind of thing. Almost.
Yeah. Get confident, or they, are kind of hot headed and like, oh, I know how to do this or whatever. And they don't want to ask because they feel like they should already know it or whatever it was. And, and I made it clear, like when we had our little team meetings, that like, hey, I'm never going to, this is medicine. This is people's lives. So I am never going to think you're stupid or anything else, because I am definitely the person, I don't know everything either. And I'm the type of nurse that I bounce everything off of, another nurse. If it's something that has to do with like, critical medicine or like medications that can kill someone. If I'm mixing something or doing a drip, I always bounce it off because, this is life, and I always say, you got to be humble and not think everything, because that's when you're going to get into trouble. So, yeah, I mean, but it was a great experience. I will say that, it wasn't as bad as the media said. And I know like people don't want to hear that, but I went to New York to help because I did want to help and to be part of this, what they were building, because I thought it was amazing that they were bringing medics in like that. And then I wanted to see with my own eyes what was really going on, because the media would have had you believe I was flying into a zombie fucking zone or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm picturing like built up walls of like quarantine and like I mean,
I thought it was gonna be like I Am Legend, that movie with Will Smith, like zombies walking the streets and like just craziness. And I will say that there were hospitals. There's one particularly in Queens that got hit very hard, and they're a community hospital and they were feeling it. And not to say that the other ones weren't, but we had our field hospital. We had other field hospitals that came from either the military sent the comfort up. They also sent a unit from the Army to build another field hospital. Then there was another field hospital that was down the street from the one hospital that was getting hit so hard that you saw on the news all the time. So we had plenty of beds and providers everywhere, and we couldn't get the hospitals to move patients to us.
See, and we never heard that. You never heard that there was beds. Like the only thing the media ever said was how the hospitals were just slam full and there was no more beds. See, that's where that pisses me off. Like, why the misinformation? Like, and that's all right. So you were in that. What does that benefit? Why do they want us? What's the goal of people being scared of COVID? Why do they want that?
It's not to say, so COVID's weird. I've said that it's weird from the get-go. As far as it just doesn't, like, what it does to the human, when it does affect you, right? So it either, you've got people who are walking around who have no idea that they have it. You have people who don't get it. I've never tested positive ever. And I've been on 30 million flights. I've been in New York. I've been everywhere, and I work in hospitals as well. I deal with positive patients. Every one of our patients in New York were positive. I've never tested.
There's no way there's no way you haven't come in contact with it.
It's crazy, right? Or maybe I'm the cure. I don't know. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So when it does affect you, though, it does really affect you. Like, there are patients that like go downhill immediately, and like people did not know what to do with these patients. They were intubating them right away, which I think, now that we're getting more feedback from all that, was pretty detrimental. To put it, like, most of those who got intubated did not come out of that.
Yeah. Did they was it like complications because of that? Like, I heard of one guy that his lungs got overinflated kind of thing. Is that what was going on there?
I don't know what exactly. I haven't really read the research enough to see what was going on, but I mean, that can always be a complication of ventilators regardless. But yeah, I mean, you definitely had to treat them differently on a vent than you would, like, a trauma patient that you just needed help. You needed something to breathe for them because of whatever reason. These were actually, like, you had to have just a different approach to them, which no one really quite knew what the answer was. So, and it did affect them very oddly. I mean, my patients would like be talking to me like this, and then all of a sudden I'd see like the color draining from their face, and I look at their pulse ox, and they're went from 98 to 70 in like a matter of minutes of me talking to them, and seconds even. So, which I was like, what the, like, it was just weird. Like, what is going on? This is so strange. I was walking a guy around we called it the bubble. I was walking him around because he was about to be discharged because he was doing well. And so we call it the road test, where we walk them and make sure that they're good when they're exerting themselves. And he's talking to me. We're walking, talking. And all of a sudden he goes quiet, and I look over at him again. He's just like, does this 1,000-mile stare. And like, I end up having to catch him because his pulse ox just plummeted to 70s out of nowhere. And so, yeah, it was just weird stuff. And it wasn't even like, oh, I'm having difficulty breathing or like, increase in respirations or anything. It was just like, literally like, it was just out of nowhere. So no warning. Yeah. So weird stuff like that. So it's not to say, because, I talk about it and people are like, oh, you think COVID's fake? I'm like, no, I definitely don't think it's fake, because I've freaking treated patients with it. Like, that's where you get these trolls with these automatic assumptions just based off of reading one sentence of what you say. It's just like the mask. Oh, you don't believe in masks. And I think I believe in like the right mask, like an N95, which is what is made for, to protect you from something like this. I don't believe in, the fact that I go to the grocery store without a mask, you're going to call me an asshole. But if I go in the bathroom and stick my underwear over my head, you're gonna be like, good job. Like, that's, I don't believe in that, because that's not protecting it. And to me, it's giving a false sense of security, because if we ever do have a really deadly virus, right, when that's killing 60% and 50% of the population, whatever, people are going to think they can walk out with these masks and be okay. And I'm like, the only reason why we're getting away with it is because it is a 99% survival rate. Like, this is the only reason why we're getting away with it. You switch over to a 60% survival rate, and you're going to see a lot different, and you're going to see that the masks aren't doing a whole lot. But again, you're not people who think like, oh yeah, let me just go put my underwear over my head and I'll be good. So that's what I talk about, and people just spin that and like, oh, you think it's fake and you don't believe in this and what? No, I believe in the proper gear. Like I was educated on like, where does your education go? But whatever. It's been bizarre to me that some of these people just whatever. Yeah. So why could we not? I don't know why.
Yeah.
I know I have my ideas, which are definitely not popular.
Would that be the money factor?
Yes.
That's what I heard, which my wife, like I said, she's a nurse, and now she's in the NICU. So she's not, she's dealing with babies. She wasn't with COVID stuff. And, but she talked to several nurses that told her like they had some people die that they labeled a COVID death, but it was a lot of stuff going on with the person that died. And COVID was like hardly the cause of death, but it was a COVID death on paper. And I think because of that, the hospital was receiving some sort of funding because of these COVID deaths. That's kind of where I'm going. And I mean, I'm pretty sure that's what I was told. So that's kind of one thing I heard, which is bad to me. Anytime you get money involved, somebody is going to find a way to try to twist it to get more money or do something.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what you saw or kind of what you lean to?
Again, I was scratching my head because I did have friends that were part of the Army group. When they didn't have business, they started sending the nurses and docs to the one hospital that was getting hit hard. And they were telling me like, we're getting killed over here. Like there are people like dying in the waiting room. There's people like, I've got 20 patients in the ER, which is, one nurse should never have that many patients. There was doctors that were down there that were not emergency medicine specialists, and so I scratched my head because I was like, well, I know there's a field hospital that's down, like literally down the street from you guys that has a lot of providers and a lot of like emergency medicine doctors and, internal medicine, all that stuff. So I was like, why would you all be getting run over? And you've got an almost empty hospital over here that could take patients, And so, I started questioning that myself, and what I'd heard, and I'm not going to say I know for sure, because I don't know anything for sure, was that, they can't bill some of these these field hospitals, right? Or you can't bill the government. I would not like to think that that was the case, but I can't come up with many other reasons. Also, again, where I just don't believe in politicians, because I was like, if that were the case, if you were the governor and the mayor who are, constantly on TV talking about how much you care about your people and whatever, wouldn't you just force these places to move the patients and then figure out the money deal later or something? I don't know. Like these are the questions that were in my head. Again, I can't speak for sure, but what else, and that to me is like the pressure or the questions to these people should have been stuff like that,
I agree.
And if I don't know the answer, if I'm making this up or if I'm just making the wrong assumption, then okay, tell me why do you have a hospital where people are literally dying in your waiting room, and you have all these people over here that's down the street and they're not crossing somehow, whether you're moving providers there or whether you're moving patients to them, like one or the other. Why? Like those are the questions I want answered.
I agree. That's weird. It's weird. And I don't know. I mean, like I said, when you get money, it complicates everything, because it's like you're always going to have somebody.
Yeah.
You're always going to have somebody that's going to try to manipulate it to get more money. That's
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a farmer. I've bitched about the payments. We get these payments every now and then, and like I get annoyed when the media covers it because people think the farmers are just like lining our pockets with cash, and that's not. There are some guys. I've talked to several guys about it. There are some farmers that are just shitty, and they like they have figured out how to manipulate the systems, and they
Yeah.
get a bunch of payments. They get a shit ton of money, and they rent all the ground, and they're putting the pressure on the small guys because they get all this damn government money. That's not the normal, but you get money involved, and that's the crap people start doing.
It changes. It's crazy, and it's crazy to me because I've really never placed a lot of emphasis on money, as you could probably see by the way I spend it. I don't know. I just have never, is it nice and does it help? And, does it like allow, yeah, I can do some things that I've always wanted to do and that are fun, but it's just never been my motivator. I've never been like, I've got to be a millionaire and I've got to do this or whatever. I like to make it just to make my life easier and to help friends. Like I always give it away too. I make money and I just take all my money because I just always like, if I feel like you need it more than I do, I'm going to give it to you. Like, that's just how I am. And it, I'm probably not the smartest way of thinking, but I just like, if I see someone struggling, it just, I can't, and like, if it's someone I love, like, I can't just ignore that if I have a way of helping. So,
no, and I'm with you. I'm with you on money. That's, it's, I mean, and I think it may help that I farm because I operate in debt all the time. That's just the way farmers are. Like I function in debt and hope that I'm growing enough crops at the end of the year to pay it all off.
Yeah.
I mean, money, and it's not that I'm a super rich guy. Like I'm not a rich person, but I have money money is just a means to an end. Like, like if I get money, I'm like, man, I want to buy this new gun. And just like you said real early on, like I'm not gonna, yes, people need to save. Yes, people need to prepare, but I'm not gonna hoard it all because hell, I might get hit by a truck when I go home, like go leave today. And
exactly. And what's the point?
I want to enjoy it. You want to enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not telling people to be dumb. Like, like have some savings, but if you can't enjoy it, what's the point? So
that's exactly my outlook with it. That's why it blows my mind to see people play with lives over money. And that's what politicians do at the end of the day. And that's why I don't like any of them, because there isn't any of them that just, and not because they don't want to, it's because they're just not allowed to do what's right. Because you have people who are paying for whatever their campaign or for them to be in the position that they are. So it's obviously very hard to go against that, and these people are smart. They hold stuff over your head and they find intel on you and it's all of that. Right. So, you play that game, that's what you're entering into. And so, but yeah, I don't get, I don't get getting to that point that you're so immoral that you will play with people's lives like that and you will lie to people, and just have no regard for your citizens, crap. So I have a big problem with that. And so I don't know, like I said, I can't say for sure. I can only tell you what the knowledge that I had and being there and seeing from my own eyes and just things not adding up or making sense to me. And so, yes, that's why I question things. And that's, and that's why, like, instead of these people coming at me the way they do, like, why don't you ask me? Why don't you have a conversation with me? Like I'm not just talking, I'm not just sitting here in my living room, just like speaking, out of my ass. Like I have some experience in this area. So why wouldn't you ask someone that you knew was in a certain area, why do you think that way? Instead of like, you're an idiot, which is what everybody does. You're an idiot. because you don't agree with me. It's like,
and you're never going to have good conversation like starting something like that. Like that's not an inviting way to talk to anyone.
Exactly. And that's again human nature, right? Like if you actually want, but I chalk it up to they don't actually want to know information. They just want you to agree with them, and they want to follow this narrative. And anyone who doesn't agree with that, you're just stupid and an idiot. So and that's the important, and that's really ultimately the downfall of our society is that inability to really communicate effectively, instead of putting each other down automatically because they don't agree with you. How about, why do you think that way? Or what's going on with you? So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I don't have all the answers. I don't know. I haven't gotten vaccinated, if that's a question you were going to ask. And my thing is like, if you want to get vaccinated, again, live and let live. Why don't I? Because I've just never seen anything happen so quickly.
There's no long-term test.
To me, you can't properly research something that fast.
Yeah.
And if you think that medicine gets it right every time, or like research, like you can look throughout history how many times they've gotten things wrong that they were 100% sure of, so, and again, this would be a different story if this was something that was super deadly. Then I'd be like, oh, okay, I'm going to take my chances. I don't know, but I'm kind of like, why would I get vaccinated with something that I know can't be well researched, and we don't know the long-term effects for something that's 99% survival? It doesn't make sense to me. So if something doesn't make sense to me, whether I'm right or wrong, I'm not going to do that, but again, if you want to do it, I'm not going to say you're stupid for doing it, and that's the difference. Like, do you? I don't care, wear your mask, wear 5. I don't give a shit, but don't call me names because I'm doing something that I, with using experience and education, I'm making decisions on. So, that's what I don't understand, but
I'm solid. I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you 100%. I mean, that on the vaccine, like I said, my wife, she doesn't have plans of getting it. I mean, I work out. A relatively young guy. She works out. You're fit. I mean, like, this is what annoys me. We're healthy people. There's never been a politician get up. I mean, they shut down gyms. Like they shut down the place where people go to get healthy. And I'm like, and I have some really good friends that they were like horrified of the COVID thing. And I'm not going to keep you. I know you got a spin class. We're closing here. We're talking about health, and you got a spin class. I'm gonna be the detriment of the COVID here, but
we can do a part 2 if you want to do a part 2 later.
Yep, we're definitely gonna have to because we're gonna there's so much we could talk about, but no, that just the fact there's no emphasis on health. It's like just here's the vaccine, take the vaccine. Like I don't know. That's been what's pissed me off probably more than anything.
Yeah. And that's, and it goes back. It's like, if people would be honest with themselves and ask, like, why are they pushing for one thing and not the other that we know? And we have actually seen, right? If you're in, good health and, not to say that there haven't been people affected by it, but for the majority, if you're in good health, it doesn't seem to be as detrimental to you as, versus somebody who has multiple comorbidities and overweight and out of shape. Why are you not pushing that narrative? And that's easy, right? Go to your gym, go work out, like, put out workout plans or something. Like, there's so many things to be doing, to me, if they were actually concerned about their citizens. But and me knowing how the government operates and how, again, you're not going to know a tenth of what is going on behind the scenes, whether or not you think you are. I was talking with a very educated person about this, and they're like, no, everything gets out. And I'm like, you really are naive. And that's scary that this person thought that, because this person is very smart, in my opinion, and older too. And so just the naive thought that you'll just know everything eventually. Like, that's how I thought when I was 15, you know, the
Yeah,
fact
a
that you think
teenager.
that as a 50-year-old who's very educated is really concerning to me. Um, but yeah, that's people's thought process. They really think that, oh, if it's something bad, we'll know. I'm like,
Yeah.
I know better. I know better. So that's what I try to
Yeah.
explain. I'm like, you're arguing with me when I know better. I like,
Yeah, you've got the experience.
yes, I know what they can hide in front of me, like things that aren't even like top secret, like shit that I didn't even know that was happening right in front of my face. Like, it's just, no, you won't know. I'm sorry. And you won't know if you don't know what to question either. And they know that. So, yeah,
Well,
scary.
there you go. Well, that is a good note. That'll leave people questioning. We'll leave everybody on a questioning note. We need to question everything.
Yes.
Nikki, thank you for joining me. Where can people follow you?
The biggest one is probably Instagram, which is fly_girl_RN.
Awesome. Well, y'all go follow Nikki. It's been a blast. I've really enjoyed talking to you.
I love
I
talking to
told
you.
I told you 3 hours. We went
I
too
know. I
soon.
was like, wow, it's so funny because like this is, you know, it happened on Mike's and Andy's. I was like, what am I going to talk about? And it's like 3 hours later. I'm like, wow, and we didn't even hit like we're like at the tip of the iceberg. So
That's
yes.
how you know you're a good guest. When they flow like that, that's how you know it's a good guest. Because I've had guests before where I'm like pulling the stuff out of them. Like, so that's how you know it's a good guest. So thank you for being a good guest.
Thank you.
So everybody go follow Nikki, and like I said, question everything. That's what we'll leave you guys with. Hope y'all have a blessed day, and thanks for tuning in.